My name is Evan Joyner, and this is my criminal law road trip. I'll be picking 5 different locations with 5 different historical impacts for the history of criminal law in this country. Um, so, my first location will be the U.S. Supreme Court. I picked this location specifically for a 1972 ruling where they ruled that the death penalty was constitutional. Um, there were some violations placed on the death penalty surrounding the Eighth Amendment, uh, prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment, but it was ruled constitutional in the ruling of Gregg versus Georgia in 1976. The court reaffirmed the death penalty as constitutional. Before this ruling, it wasn't uncommon for the death penalty, especially in the early 20th century and before. So, the next location I'll be picking is going to be the Detroit House of Corrections. Um, this is significant for the fact that this was the first place where there was any type of parole or indeterminate sentencing placed on people. In 1861, Zebulon Brockway implemented what at the time he called indeterminate sentencing, which would later become parole. In 1877, he did the same thing when he moved to New York. The whole point of this system was to rehabilitate and reward notable and good behavior. If we fast forward to today, there's nearly 8 million people under some sort of correctional supervision or parole. And that number translates to about 3% of the entire population in the U.S. The next place I'm going to pick is going to be the National Detective Agency. It's located in Chicago, Illinois. Specifically, I'll be starting off with the year 1850. It was created by Alan Pinkerton, and it wouldn't actually receive any type of national recognition until they uncovered an assassination plot against Abraham Lincoln in 1861. It would later contribute towards the organization of a federal secret service, which was officially started at the beginning of the Civil War. Alan Pinkerton will also be appointed as the head of the Federal Secret Service in 1865 after the war. But this is such a big center because this is pre FBI or anything else. So this led to a lot of advancements in detective work, especially this early on. The next location I'll be picking is the La Plata Central Police Department in Argentina. The reason I'm picking this location is because this is the first place in the so-called New World, which is anywhere continental North America, continental South America, that fingerprints were used to identify a killer. In 1892, fingerprints were used to identify the killer in a double murder of 2 children. The children's mother was actually the killer. They found the fingerprints through blood stains. So this provided evidence for her to be prosecuted. Now, this is not the first documented time of fingerprint use. That dates back to almost 2000 BC. The Babylonians actually used fingerprints to stop forgery and tax fraud. And that would continue into the Roman Empire. And yeah, so this is just the first documented case in the New World. Okay, so the last location I'll be picking is the Philadelphia Convention. You can consider this a location. It happened in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania between May 25th and September 17th, 1787. The reason I picked this specifically is for the Sixth Amendment, which basically allows people to have a fair and just trial. It also makes sure their trial doesn't take too long to occur. And it also protects the person during their trial in whichever state or district they're in. And they also have to have a compulsory process for having witnesses in their favor from the assistance of the defense counsel. Alright, so here are my sources. So basically, my first one was Supreme Court temporarily finds death penalty unconstitutional. This was on constitutioncenter.org. My next one was nailhead.com. It was called I Want Love and Affection, Not the House of Corrections. This gives the history of the Detroit House of Corrections, this background and the history of the parole in this country. The next one I used was Pinkerton.com, just on their Our History page, because this is where it starts talking about the National Detective Agency. The next location was First Murder Solved by Fingerprint on Victorian Supersheath.com. It's an Argentinian website. And then the next one I used was history.state.gov, U.S. Convention and Ratification, 1887 through 1889. Thank you for listening.